All right, not even to the co-main event yet, and you got Ho Choi fighting Charles Jourdain. And Ho Choi, obviously, this is going to be the first time he's fought in nearly 2 years. His last fight was a knockout loss to Jeremy Stephens. And before that, he lost to Cub Swanson. And I think before that, he knocked out Thiago Tavares, if I'm remembering correctly. Let me look that up and make sure I'm not fucking lying to you guys. But Ho Choi, very good, very fast hands, understands distance and range very well, has a razor-sharp right hand that has knockout power in it. Just pulled up his... Yeah, Thiago Tavares, first-round KO. I mean, listen to this, man. He started off his UFC career with 3 straight first-round KOs. I mean, he has legit knockout power, 14 wins, 11 knockouts, 1 submission, 2 decisions. Very legit on the feet. Very fast, very dangerous, and, you know, you saw him put Cub Swanson in trouble in that fight, that 3-round war that those guys got in, but Swanson was just a vet, man, whereas, and he was just able to outstrike him, man, do some things that, you know, some things that Choi probably hasn't seen before, but when he fought Jeremy Stephens, man, Jeremy Stephens just carries that fucking knockout power in his hands. And you could see in that fight that Choi fights best, in my opinion, when he's moving forward and asserting himself, and that's a hard thing to do to Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens is an aggressive motherfucker, and it works so well for him. The reason that fight works so well, in my opinion, for Stephens is because Stephens hits so fucking hard that it forces guys to respect him, and they're not willing to just sit and trade in the pocket because the chances of getting knocked out are so great, so it forces you to respect his power and back up. He was able to do that consistently to Choi, even when Choi is finding success. Like when he did back him up against the cage and cut that space off, he was able to, you know, find success, but just very briefly before. And Stephens was also doing little things, like things that you see veterans do when they fight guys who have a little bit less experience, like elbows off the break, right? And maybe throwing an extra punch in a combination and landing where Choi was waiting on things. You know, it's just... Jeremy Stephens is one of those guys who, when he's fighting, man, it's all reaction. He's a vet. It's muscle memory for that motherfucker, and he hits like a tank. So tough fight for Choi. Probably good that he took a 2-year layoff, to be honest. I like when guys suffer losses and they're like, all right, time to get back to the drawing board and work on some things. Especially when you're young, I don't think octagon rust is as big of a deal. But Ho Choi is fighting a guy in Charles Jourdain who is very dangerous. And a guy who has a very funky style, and he fights very far away from you. He likes to hang back, and he covers a lot of distance with the shots. The problem is that... Oh, and one thing I wanted to point out that I noticed that was kind of odd that Jourdain does, and I like it. I don't mind it, but he'll usually mirror the stance of whoever he's fighting. So, like, for example, Ho Choi is an orthodox. You're going to probably see Charles Jourdain come out in orthodox. He'll switch to southpaw every once in a while, but when he fights southpaws, he likes to stand southpaw. So there must be something in his striking style that he likes to have the same foot forward. Like if your right foot's forward, he's putting his right foot forward. But here's the thing. I love the fact that he can do that. Like it shows you that he's got some diversity in his striking. But I would like to see him not get so rooted in one of the stances. Like if he's going to be fighting an orthodox guy, I'd like to see him use the jab to push Choi to the right and then switch your stances, man, and come back this way and just keep Choi guessing. I think if Jourdain comes out and just fights an orthodox style fight in this fight, it's going to be a long night for him. He comes from some crazy angles and, you know, he covers distance pretty well, but he throws a lot of wild strikes that I think might get him in trouble, especially big looping shots and big knees, whereas Ho Choi is very traditional and likes to come straight down the pipe with things. Very fast with his hands and very fundamentally sound. I don't like this matchup for Jourdain. I think it's a very tough one for him to overcome. But the wildness and the things that he throws and the unorthodox style might pose some problems for Ho Choi. Like I said, I think that if Jourdain was able to mix up his footwork a little more fluidly and keep guys guessing, and, you know, I think that with him, if he tries to hang out on the outside and then use big movements to cover distance, it's going to be really dangerous against Choi because his hands are so fast. And like I said, he'll just come straight down the pipe. So I actually think for Jourdain, he can't be using as big of movements to cover that distance, and he's got to be switching his footwork on and off, going to the body, going up top. But I think this is a really fucking tough fight for him, especially for a guy in Ho Choi who has seen 2 of the best in the featherweight division already. Like I said, I just like Dooho Choi to stay fundamentally sound, come down the middle with things, whereas Jourdain will be a little wild. And I think the hand speed advantage is massively in favor of Dooho Choi. I like Dooho Choi to get this fight done in the first or second round. I think he's going to get Charles Jourdain out of there.